Welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast, where every week we talk about things like nutrition, training,
how to live a healthy and active lifestyle with your little ones, peaceful parenting, education,
and of course, mindset.
Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Keto Counterculture, at FatFueledMom, and at FatFueledKids, and search for Fat Fueled Family on YouTube.
To stay up to date with everything we're doing, sign up with your email at www.fatfueled.family and check out our blog for workouts, meal ideas, and all the other cool stuff we love to talk about.
Don't forget to hit subscribe.
All right, welcome to the Fat Fueled Family Podcast. I am Danny Vega, and I'm joined by my very happy wife today. She said thank you with an exclamation point. It threw me off.
And then you went, "You're welcome," back with an exclamation. And then I realized how annoying that was.
It wasn't annoying. It's just not characteristic of you. So I appreciate it. I appreciate the perkiness. She was grateful that I made her lunch. And so,
yes.
We have a very special guest today. We're extremely excited to speak to this week's guest because she's a registered nutritionist. She's a farmer, butcher, hunter. She lives the kind of life we hope to emulate in the coming years. And she's all about the nose to tail ancestral nutrition. She's an unschooler. She's a hopelessly devoted mother and wife. And she seems to have drank from the fountain of youth. Welcome to the show, Tara, aka Slow Down Farmstead. How are you, Tara?
I'm really good. How are you?
We're great. We're so happy to have you on.
Yes.
I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, we usually start with a question I'll let Maura ask.
Yeah. So our first question, no surprise, is what is the most critical problem you're currently trying to solve?
I'm sort of at the point now where our youngest is 16, so she's moving out. So there's something that really drives me, and that is connecting people to the land and to the animals and to the farmers, and whether that's someone farming themselves or just buying food directly from the farmers. And the reason for that is because I think that that's where so many of our answers lie to the problems that are plaguing us right now in our health and our disconnection. So our state of mental health, our sort of that feeling that there's something missing or that we're lost. I think that place is on the land and is in nature, is the challenges that are lacking in our lives that build resilience, the welfare of our animals. I'm actually starting in a few months to put together a book that I'm writing about death and slaughter of animals, because I think that our cultural dysfunction around death and thinking that we're all going to live forever is actually what allows this sort of inhumane treatment of animals to go on in the dark corners, because nobody wants to look at it or take responsibility for it. So it's a really big answer, I know, to that question, but it's really the thing that motivates me and pushes me to learn more and to be better and to share as much as I can, and to sort of say to people that this is not, death is not violent, and it's not this nightmarish picture that we've been shown, and that actually it can be quite beautiful. And I think that the more responsibility we take for that, and which starts with, I think, sort of reconnecting ourselves, is I think everything will just get better. So.
Yeah. And it's funny because with everything that's going on right now with, concerted efforts to get, people away from meat, for instance, I think that a lot of us are going to be, if we're not already thinking about getting closer to the source of our food, I think we're going to be forced to, because I think that if you start to see taxes on meat, for instance, I think you're going to just start seeing a lot of people start to have a few cows, a cow or two, or some pigs, and they will start seeing the local butcher or becoming, learning how to process their own meat. I think that's a good thing. I think we could end up being better off because of it. And like you said, it solves the problems, but we might be forced in that direction regardless. So I think it's such an important thing. And I love what you're doing on your account.
Yeah, I completely agree. And thank you.
And I love the connection you made to, I never actually thought of it that way, but it makes perfect sense about just mental health, and that it's more natural what you're doing, as where we're so disconnected from our food, and Danny just went on his first hunting trip where he actually shot his first deer and processed it. And I mean, he came back a totally different person, and he talks about how weird it is to just go to the store and buy his plastic wrapped meat. There is such a disconnection there. And we do need to be outside.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And Danny, I'm sure that if someone told you before you went on your first hunt that could in some way be a connective, maybe like, dare I say, spiritual experience, you'd probably kind of just think them a little nutty. But it is. And I remember the first time that I was involved in harvesting an animal, and it was a bison actually, and it was on 7,000 acres of land roaming. They were farmed, but they never saw the farmer. And it was with one of the great mentors of my life who I just loved and respected so deeply. And he just was such a man of the land. And we went out there and we harvested this beautiful bison. And when we were driving out there, my heart was pounding, and I just thought, I can't do this. This is like cruel. And I couldn't really figure out what my place would be and if I could even handle it. And I hesitate a little bit because I think some people will think I sound flaky, but the truth of the matter is, and it's happened every single time that because we butcher all of our own animals, there is a moment when, you shoot that animal and it's there and it's alive and it's an animal for sure. And then you shoot it and there's a moment where, that spirit leaves. And that for me as a little kid that grew up terrified of death. I mean, when my mom left the house, I would cry because I was certain she would die. And I used to think death was when we went into this big black hole and nothing happened. That was it. It was the ultimate end. And having seen these animals transform from this living being to just meat, because the spirit leaves before your eyes. It's really transforming, and it's not a horrible, violent thing. It's a moment of great gratitude and of great connectiveness. And I wish that we could talk about that more. And I hope that's kind of what I want to do. Is I think a lot of people are connected to meat, but they think like, well, that part of it's really horrible, and I'll eat this meat, but I won't think about that moment of it. But I think we should think about that moment, because it really gives you more reverence for what you're putting into your body and makes you more responsible as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, it's, when I read, because I've always been a meat eater, but like you said, there's that disconnect with between me and the source. There's so many different things in between me and the source, And, when I read the vegetarian myth, it really just put it very simply. We all die and we all basically eat each other, and we just take turns, and when I looked at it that way, it made it so much more just a natural thing. We all are part of this living ecosystem that is, living off of each other basically. And we can't escape the certainty of death. But when we do die, and of course the ethical treatment of the animal, we only want that animal to have one bad day in its life. And that's how we kind of see it when we get our meat locally, is, we want to find out how how the animals are being killed and what type of conditions they live in. That I think you're right. It's such an important thing. And to have someone like you write this book is so important, because the other thing is, I think, I hate to generalize, but I feel like a woman it's going to be a harder thing for a woman.
Yes.
Because women, for some reason, we're
just more empathetic just by nature.
Yeah.
Where we would be more probably opposed. I don't want to say opposed, but just
like, oh, that doesn't sound good.
Or no, like maybe more sad about it.
Yeah. But also this weird thing where it's not ladylike to eat meat. Like you always see a woman laughing, eating salad. That's just the weirdest thing.
Those pictures always crack me up. I'm like, she's not happy. She's hungry.
I'd be crying.
Oh my gosh. I would be crying with the salad as well. I'd be like, where's my ribeye?
But you know the thing too, and this is, I think, the biggest thing, because so many times, like, I honestly, if I had a dime for every time someone said to me, "Oh, you're tougher than I am," or "Oh, I could never," or something like that. Yeah. First of all, that person is shortchanging themselves, because they're only repeating back what society has told them, their whole lives, and I think it's bullshit.
Yeah,
absolutely.
The second thing is, there's things bigger than our emotions. Like, no one could tell me. We butchered a 16-year-old cow last year. She was like on our farm forever, right from the beginning. Wow. She was just a beautiful animal. But, cows, a 20-year-old cow is a very, very, very old cow.
That's a rare thing to slaughter such an old cow for. Did you use it for meat or?
Yeah, for sure. For sure we did. Yeah. We just aged her a little bit longer, so her meat was a bit soft, more tender, but she was delicious. But she was a lovely cow. But she was getting to the age, it was time for her to go. And we did what we always do. We gave her a humane death. And for us, that means that the cows are out on pasture. We don't bring them into anything. They're out on pasture. And we put down some alfalfa for them, which is their favorite treat. And they're segregated off from everybody else. And we shoot them in the head. So it's literally, born and dying under the same sky. It's instantaneous. It's absolutely, it's the same as hunting, except it's a headshot, right? So they're dead instantly. But the point of that is that not that it's easy for me, because I honestly just think about it nonstop for the couple days before we're going to harvest an animal. It's that it is my responsibility, and that trumps my emotions. Like, I don't care if I'm uncomfortable. I don't care if it scares the heck out of me. I don't care if it makes me sad. Like, all those things are warranted and they're normal human emotions, but those feelings to me don't mean stop. Like, right. I have to do things based on my principles. Otherwise, why am I even here? Like, So that to me is what trumps all of those emotions. And I just remind myself of that all the time. And, I may not like it. And I don't think anyone that's sane would like killing an animal. That's kind of crazy. If you get off on that, you've got a problem. But
yeah, exactly.
You like that. But after we shoot our animals, we always go up to them and put our hands on them, and we say a little prayer and thank them for, everything that they've done for us. And we talk to them about their unique characters and what they brought to our lives. And we just send them off with a little blessing of gratitude and love. And because that's really how we feel about it. And, I think that like what you were mentioning earlier about like these issues around meat and them trying to tax meat and stuff, I think that this whole thing is feeding into that ability for these crazy ideas to start brewing about meat being, so filthy and these animals being abused and all that. And I just want to show that, no, I think those are actually rare cases. I think that actually most farmers, even conventional farmers I know, care for their animals and would be horrified to see that sort of stuff. But I think we need to start talking about it more and being a little more brave about it and sucking it up and just getting on with doing the right thing.
Absolutely. And, what you just described, it's more, of course, it's more of a natural way, but at the same time, when the animal means more to you, you are going to be less wasteful. And it reminds me, we watched this show on Netflix. It's called Tales by Light. And we were watching an episode about the indigenous people that still live in this part of Australia, and how they, when they go out and they, it all happens in one day. They get the wood to make the spear and then they go fishing. But it's like you only take what you need. Whereas you go to the grocery store, it's just, you're going to tend to be more wasteful. It's just it's so much more of a disconnect than when that's your animal that you nursed for like so long. 16 years, that's a really long time.
Well, that wasn't normal, but
it's usually less than a year, I'm sure, but still,
even I'm sure you you become attached to these animals, just like
sure.
you're seeing them grow, and it's just, you're going to be more grateful and less wasteful, I think.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
And, it reminds me, it's the same situation. I see a parallel between this and like the fear of guns, where people are just so fearful of guns. And, when you don't recognize, of course you have to respect a gun, but I think it's important to teach people how to use a gun. And, it just goes, like you said, it's that lack of education. It leads to really wild and off the wall ideas. Like you said, I totally agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I live in Canada, so I'm allowed to say that word. So.
I know. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to let you guys know about a company we've been a fan of for over a year now. This is a really cool company because, number one, they're convenient. They make some delicious products, and they were also so cool when Dean had the accident. They sent us a great care package. The boys love their products. We love their products. They're convenient, and that's Real Good Foods. Real Good Foods has chicken crust pizzas, cauliflower pizzas. They have these awesome enchiladas that the boys love. Good products, low carb, keto friendly. And if you see the comparison compared to actual other packaged foods, there's no comparison. So they have a store locator. They're available at places like Walmart and supermarkets. I've also seen them even at Vitamin Shop, which is pretty cool. And if you wanted to shop for them locally, you can look at the store locator online. But we have a code, and it's FatFueledFam, and that'll give you $10 off your order. So if you're in a time pinch and you don't have time to cook yourself a nice home cooked meal, definitely look into Real Good Foods. They get the Fat Fueled Family seal of approval. And without any further ado, back to our show. Well, look, I want to come back to the food because it's so important, but like, we also love the fact that you're an unschooler, and we found that out like a few months ago. I think you commented on something that we posted, and then we were like, oh my goodness, this is like, it makes so much sense, and, you're without a doubt like one of our favorite people to follow on Instagram. Like, you live a life that I feel most people may be too scared to live. But deep inside, like you said, they yearn for it. There's that weird, there's something missing.
Yeah.
And so I want to start with the path that you chose for you and your children. I know you said that it was a little bit more conventional at first, but with respect to education, tell us what that looked like, and how your views on education started and what they evolved to.
Yeah. So, okay, we have 3 daughters who are now 26, 22, and 16. Well, she'll be 16 in 2 weeks or something. But anyways, so my husband, I was in the military for 7 years. My husband was 25 years served in the military, which meant that we moved every couple years. So throughout our older daughter's upbringing, they were just going to normal school, and we were always a bit unconventional in our thinking and questioned everything. We never really took like, this is truth, so says society, so therefore it's truth. We always sort of put things through our own filter of, well, is this true for us? And so anyways, our kids went to school, and they did fine. It was all right. Neither of them were really scholarly, but the thing that we noticed is when they became teenagers, it was weird because our oldest daughter, she was our first kid, she was our first teenager, and she was a little wild hellion, that one. And she's just an amazing young woman, and she was an amazing kid, but she was and remains to be incredibly spirited and will not take anything as truth unless she decides it is so. And I really respect her, and she challenges me to this day, and I learn so much from her, from all my kids actually. But when she was a teenager, she started moving, because she is like she'll do anything on a dare, and she started sort of hanging out more with her friends and stuff. And we were like, kind of being told by society, that's normal. Like, it's at this point where friends become more important than parents. And, if she wants to be with her friends all the time, that's normal. But, for us, it kind of felt like we were losing our connection to her. And the more we were losing our connection to her, the more she would hang out with friends. And then we would move again. And then she would make new friends again. And then it was around that time that someone recommended the book Hold On to Your Kids. Have you heard of that book?
No, actually.
I have heard of it. Yeah, but
okay.
I haven't. There was a big story that led to the book, but I don't remember. Can you remind me what it was, the story of the book?
I don't remember. So it's by Dr. Gordon Neufeld, and he's in the book. Like, I don't remember if there was a big story other than what I took away from, or we took away from the book, was just that I think the longer title is Hold On to Your Kids and Making Parents Matter More, or Why Parents Matter More Than Peers, or something like that. But in the book, he talks about sort of in our society, like how things have changed so much in just a few decades, where family used to be really important and, sort of your values and your principles. And now we're raising kids that, when they're like 11 or 12, we start sort of pushing them off on their friends and, go hang out with your friends and go for sleepovers with your friends. And all of a sudden, you're not really raising your kids anymore. Like,
exactly.
These friends are. And this book, and maybe because my husband and I didn't really have much of a upbringing, either of us, to sort of like, set that outline for us. But for us, it was really transformative. And we just completely changed our approach to our daughter. And we just really started nurturing her and pulling our family unit back in together. And that, honestly, for anyone that feels like they're kind of losing their teenagers, or even maybe before your kids get to be teenagers, for us, that was such an important book. But anyway, so my kids grew up and our first daughter went off to university, lasted 4 months, hated it with a passion, and then left and went and traveled the world on our own dime and did some courses and stuff. And she's in Vancouver right now. She's actually just going back to school to be an electrician. But she's just that kind of kid. She needs to be physical. She gets up at 4 a.m. and she lives in Vancouver. She drives an hour and a half out of the city and goes wild salmon fishing in her beat up SUV, and she just got a bow for Christmas and she's starting bow hunting. She's training with this old guy that's training her, and those are the things that she values. She makes little money but has a little meager lifestyle where she just wants to be outside. She's always driving up to the mountains just to be in the mountains, and that's what she does. She's amazing. She's just that kind of thing, but always reading and learning and passionate about things. It's the same with our middle daughter. She's the same way, but she's does flower essence therapy, and she's an incredible artist and so creative and always doing her own thing in her own way. As far as the unschooling, our youngest daughter we got posted to our last posting, which is a city close to where we are right now. And she was in a French school and she was in grade 2. And she was obsessed with rocks. Like, I mean, obsessed. This kid would like go for a walk and come home barely able to walk because her pockets were bulging out in these plain old gravel, crappy rocks. And she'd want to learn about them. We would go to the library and I'd get her books on rocks. And anyway, she was just fascinated with geology at like what a grade 2, level would, what is she, 6 years old, I guess, at that time. And I remember talking to her teacher, and I went up to her teacher and I said, our daughter, Mila is her name. Mila is just obsessed with rocks and she's really into this. And is there like any sort of resources that you could recommend that I could, because I sort of exhausted the library. And she said, why are you teaching her about rocks? We don't get into that until grade 4.
Oh, you should just stop.
That kills me right there. Right there, I'd be like, bye. Unenrolled.
And that's pretty much what happened, because I was like, in grade 4, the kid's not going to give a shit about rocks. I mean,
exactly. She cares now. Now's the time.
Exactly. So at that same time, she was always this kid was reading at like 4. She was going through like a book every 2 or 3 days. She would go to the library and get, piles of books on the most obscure subjects, but just loved it. We'd be like butchering animals on the farm, and she would come out and want to hold the heart, and she'd be asking, what is this hole for? And
that's
where does
Desmond.
this go? Like, just really connected to all those things. And so anyway, I had contacted a local group in our area that were homeschoolers, and I met with them because I thought I'll never be smart enough. Like, I could never homeschool a kid. Who do I think I am? Like, you have to be a genius to do that.
It's that process, that process
we all go
through. Yep.
Yeah. And they were just a phenomenal group of women, and they're like, come on, that's not how it goes. And I saw that they had like a music group, and they had all these cool things going on, and I just thought, it won't hurt to do it for 1 year. And so I think from that teacher's comment to when we pulled her out of school was maybe 2 weeks. And that was it. I thought, I'll just do this for a year. I can't damage her too badly in that time, can I? And she actually ended up being staying home until grade 8. And then in grade 8, there was an art school that she had to, it's a public school, but it's a focus on heavy just arts. And you have to apply to get in, and the app, like a tryout audition, sorry. But the audition is like, it can be a piece of music and could be whatever. And she did a monologue, and in her monologue, she was milking her dairy cow.
I love it.
That's awesome.
She had on her little overalls, and she was like as she was milking, she was telling the story of how stubborn that dairy cow was. And anyway, she got in, and then from there she went to high school. And so she's in high school now. And it's funny because 2 of her best friends in high school, they're all really athletic girls. They're all just kind, sweet, common sense, down to earth girls, and more interested in like having fun. And they, like, last weekend they all got together and went ice skating on the lake together. And the other 2 girls are actually homeschooled as well throughout their. So somehow they gravitated towards.
Yeah, your tribe, your people.
Yeah. So it was just such a phenomenal experience for us. And like I said, being on the farm, I mean, she would, get up and she would go sit by the brook and like pick under rocks and look for frogs and, find snakes and do things like that, or observe woodpeckers. And then she'd be, insatiably curious, like, why is that woodpecker always on that tree? Like, what is it looking for? And she would research it. It was just so natural, such a natural, complex, thorough, beautiful way for her to learn, to just be able to follow her passions.
Wow. And one of the things that, and I don't know why it is, I think people really get scared or concerned when they see their child just losing interest in one thing and going to another. I don't know why. I think it's like they want this closure. They want to know, okay, well, she's going to be a geologist, and that's all there is to it. Okay, let's go geology school. And they don't just allow them. Like, I think if you look at a lot of successful people, a lot of them, that's what they do. They get really, really into subjects and they become experts in it, or they just let it go.
And then they're done. Yeah.
And then they're done with it and they go on to the next thing. And I don't know why that's such a weird thing for people to understand.
I know. Yeah. And we've always taught that to our kids too. Like, I just feel like there's so much juicy stuff in life to learn. There's so much cool stuff. Like, I just want to learn and learn. I don't want to be an expert in anything. I just want to try and sample as much as I can while I'm here. And that's what we've tried to teach to our kids too. And, I really want to say too, is that, like, she's in grade 10. She's on the varsity girls hockey team. She's also on a local boys hockey team. She's strong as an ox, that kid. Like, she takes out boys twice her size on a daily basis on the ring. But she's getting A+ across the board. I've actually had 2 calls from teachers. One was from her Power Fit teacher, which is like a weightlifting program they do in the mornings. And
cool.
I had another call from her history teacher. Just the Power Fit teacher was saying, what did you do with this kid? Like, she's just so solid. Like, she's just, good-hearted, and she enjoys talking to adults. Like, if you had a conversation with her, she'd ask you questions and she'd really be interested because she's a truly curious person, and it's worked out. Like, she was so convinced she'd get to high school and be like the one with the little dunce cap on in the corner. But like, it has not, I was saying to her, trust me, you're not missing out on anything here. But yeah, it's because she remained curious and enjoys learning now.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's just the way that we're taught as well. And there's this quote that I love that I've said like probably a million times, but if we taught babies how to walk in school, it would take like one generation for people to truly believe that you couldn't learn how to walk if you didn't go to school. And I feel like that's how because people ask me all the time too, and they're like, so wait, you don't have a curriculum? So how does he learn? Like, they don't understand that children are naturally curious. Like, we are naturally curious as human beings, and that's how it goes. There's just things pop up. Desmond learned how to count, I think, by counting bacon slices, or how many bacon slices.
Going with you to the store and counting.
Do you want? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And about the whole thing, I love what you said too about how she talks to adults, because that's another huge thing that we've noticed. I went to public school my whole life, and I clearly remember there being a huge disconnect between kids and adults. And like, I never felt comfortable around the adults. I didn't want to talk to them, but that's because you're away from them for so long throughout the day. And the only adult is an authority figure. Whereas, Desmond, he'll talk to anyone. He'll go up to an old lady. He'll go up to anyone and just start talking to them. And it's just funny how the main worry people have about homeschoolers is socialization, because that's probably my favorite part of it, which is how well socialized my son is, because he's getting his social cues from, everybody, just adults. He's seeing how younger children act, older children, instead of just getting their social cues from their same age peers all day.
Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely notice that too.
I think going back to what you were saying about, and obviously the book Hold Your Kids, again, I don't remember what it's about, but I've heard it. I think my friend Ben told me about it. And I think we obviously our poor parents at this point are just like used to how weird we are with everything. They're just like, oh, well, yeah,
they gave up.
Well, that's them.
At first they tried to fight it.
Yeah. And all of this stuff is so intertwined together, because our parenting style, is again a non-authoritarian. It's more of a team. We work in partnership with each other, and we treat each other with respect, because it's important to treat people with respect, not just because it's important to respect your elders. It's just in general, you respect people because you want to be respected, and it's the right thing to do. And I remember hearing, so how many times did we hear, oh, wait till they get to those teenage years. That's what's going to be. Wait till you see that. As if they're like this, again, I have the problem.
Like some like evil species.
Yeah, like some hormone raged, and they do the same thing with pit bulls. And I had a pit bull, and they just said the same thing, like pit bulls turn on you. Like my son is going to turn on me one day like a pit bull. And it just goes to show, it's like that, it's that lack of education. And again, it's the lack of connection. And for us, just like for you, the most important thing is our family dynamic. Like, we do so much together that we take for granted, like how well we know each other. And we really do know each other well. And I think that's not a normal thing. And we're trying to get people to think about that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I've always been like, when someone tells me something, ever since, gosh, I guess we were all like that when we were little, but was to say, well, why? Like, why would that be? Like, why is your kid turning on you when they're a teenager? Is it because they're so lost that they're trying to connect to somebody, and if it's not their family, it's going to be their friend or the boy or the girl or whatever, we have to have a sense of place. Like, we have to belong to a tribe. And I really people, we have 3 girls, for heaven's sake. Everyone was like, oh boy.
Oh, forget it. Yeah. Girls are like automatically hormones equals like evil.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it can be that way. But like, I was like, well, why? Why would your kids? And I had a very tumultuous upbringing in my teenage years, very bad. And I had come out of that with absolute determination of not knowing maybe exactly what I was going to do, right? But what I promised I would never do. And the one thing for me was that my kids would always know unconditional love, no matter how mad I was at them, no matter what they got into. And they got into it but that I was always in their corner. You know, I'd be mad at them. They'd have consequences for sure. Like I really believe in letting your kid face consequences because that's life, you know?
Yes.
And they're not failing me. They're failing themselves. And you need to learn from those things. And, I didn't take it personally, like, you know, because they're doing this. It doesn't mean this means anything about me. This is a lesson that they had to go through. And they did. And like, it was really painful sometimes, like as a parent to, you know, it's not great to get a phone call at like 1:30 in the morning when your kid is supposed to be sleeping somewhere and it's an ambulance saying they're bringing her into the hospital because she was found puking her guts out, you know? I mean, this was like real world 17-year-old, you know,
typical.
Like she was a wild child but there was consequences to that and she had to face that and learn that. And she did. And even when those things happened, it didn't mean that we turned our backs on them. Like, you know, life is gonna shape you up and smooth you out on its own. And for us, it was just always really important to let those kids know that we were in their corner and we loved them. And sometimes loving them meant having to, you know, stand back and just let them have to deal with things on their own. Of course, that's age appropriate, right? Like, I mean, I'm not talking about a 4-year-old, but yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's crazy because, you know, when I just lost my train of thought, we were just talking about
the consequences.
Yeah, the consequence things. That's what it is. We want to protect our kids from these things, and we think that we can somehow control these things. And it goes back to your what you started with this fear of death. And it's like we think that we're invincible because we live in the safest time in all of history. And so we try to protect our kids from things from everything. They're going to happen. They're going to happen. And it's like putting your head in the sand to just ignore them versus having a better frame of mind and knowing regardless of what happens, you know, trust your, what you did as a child, like for the child as a child was growing up and what you taught them through the way you live and through your example. And you have to trust them to make their own decisions and their own mistakes. And it's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. But not allowing that, I feel like in the long run is going to it always does more harm.
Yep.
They're not going to be resilient. They're going to just need you, you know, they're going to be making bigger mistakes as adults instead of allowing those mistakes and consequences to be learned at younger ages. Like we do that with money, for example, with them. So
and
I will let them spend, like my oldest, he spent years and the lesson took years. It did. It took years. For years and years, he would spend every dollar. Like if he would make $1, he would spend it at the dollar store, you know, buying crappy little toys, you know, I'm like, and then they would break. The toy sucks. It would break. Finally, you know, I don't know, like maybe a year or so ago, he started just becoming much more, he would save a little bit more and be like, you know what, I'll just save it for something better, you know, but I'd rather him make those dollar mistakes now than, you know, huge financial mistakes later on.
Oh,
you know?
For sure. Absolutely. I mean, we don't even talk to kids about money, really. You know, like money is such a passé subject in our culture. But yeah, I mean, I totally agree. And that's what we were, as they get older, that those pictures start getting a bit bigger and bigger. You know, what does it mean if you don't put money away and you have like bills to pay, or you have like, you know, maybe you want to take a course or you want to save up to do something really cool with your friends. And if they don't have that, then they don't do it. And it's like, you know, you hate it because you want to be like, okay, well, I really want you to be able to do that.
Yeah, I'm going to save this money for you.
Yeah. And no, like I have a friend who's a professor at university and she's been doing that for over 20 years now. And her and I were talking about what she's seeing in the classroom. And she just said there is just no resilience left to these kids coming in. I mean, and we've all heard about helicopter parenting, but she said it's actually worse now, where the kids are just constantly, there's this like this normalization of mental health issues. You know, people don't get stressed, or it's not like pressure anymore. Like, you know, I got to study, I have some pressure. No, it's like, I need to go into the emergency room and go get some, you know, whatever for my
anxiety, right?
Compulsive or whatever, like these different, we've like made these different states of uncomfortableness into diseses.
Oh, yeah.
And then
that's huge.
say we have the pills to fix that. And so they're all in general, I shouldn't say that. They're not all, but she was saying to me that it's just astounding to her, you know, when she puts out an assignment, how many parents she gets calling her.
For college?
Parents from college kids. Wow.
From university. Yeah.
That's
where
crazy.
The parents will call in and say, or send her an email and say, you know, little whatever, Mary is she didn't want to come to you on her own because she feels
that is ridiculous.
But yeah. Wow. But it's not, she said that it's just, that if she doesn't give them an answer they want, they'll go to the dean. And
it's so bad.
Yeah.
That's so bad.
So that's like, if you can't even get through university without your parents calling in, like, that's not the kind of kids I want.
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt, but I had to tell you about something really cool that's happening in Utah in April, and that is FitCon Summit. I'm here with Jenny Lynn Griffiths. She's the FitCon Summit coordinator and sponsorships, and we wanted to let you guys know all about this. What's up, Jenny?
Hey, how's everyone?
Well, I wanted to give you a chance to share a little bit about FitCon. First of all, what is FitCon?
Yeah, so FitCon is one of the biggest conventions in health and fitness. It's the biggest in Utah, and then we're gaining on the map to be one of the biggest in the country. So all things fitness and health.
And from what I understand, there's also, you know, a lot of it is helping fitness people with business development. Am I right?
Yes. Yeah, we created FitCon Summit for more the professional crowd and coaches and trainers, nutritionists to really learn how to like build their business. And we always bring people in that are doing so they can show them and tell them how to do it. So we really try to hit on the business aspect. And then the FitCon itself is a huge expo that has about 350 vendors, and we have 30 athletic competitions going on. Everything from powerlifting to bodybuilding to Ninja Warrior courses to arm wrestling, roller derby, fencing. It like just goes on and on. But pretty much every sport is there.
Fencing.
Yeah, we added fencing this year. It's kind of fun. Something different to watch. And sumo wrestling. That'll be a first
That is so cool. So, I mean, beyond, you know, your typical coach and, you know, small business, fitness business person, who would benefit from going to FitCon?
Yeah, good question. So we're doing it with FitCon Summit in particular. We're kind of trying to build the brand of influencers and podcasters, like people like yourself that are really making a difference in the world with their influence. So I would say any like influencer or podcaster would benefit a lot from the summit, but also just people really interested in fitness and health. I think people have a passion and they're kind of not sure how to monetize their passion. So anyone that's interested in how to do that, I think it's a good fit, as well as any personal trainer. You do earn CEUs if you're like NASM or ACE certified. So any trainer, like I said, any fitness enthusiast, nutritionist, and then just the general population that's interested in some really cool entertainment too, if they like the, you know, fitness industry.
I love it. And who is going to be speaking this year?
Yeah, we have a killer lineup this year. So we've got Mark Sisson, Drew Manning, Ben Greenfield, Mike Mutzel, Thomas DeLauer, Mike Boyle, which is famous in the strength community.
Oh, I love Mike Boyle. Yeah.
Yeah, he's awesome. His method is like exploded. So we're excited to have him. We also have Christian Thibodeau, which is a trainer out of Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know him. He's brilliant.
Tip Nation, yeah.
Neurotyping. Yeah. Testosterone Nation. He's actually one of the main writers for Testosterone Nation, as well as Paul Carter, which will be there as well. So we're
my buddy Paul. I was just on the phone with him this week. That's funny.
Oh, no way. Of course you're connected. Yeah. It's funny. Like, this whole community is awesome because I feel like the people that are really at the top, like, they know each other, you know?
It's so true.
Yeah, and then we've got day 2, we've got, like I said, Ben Greenfield, Elle Russ that runs his podcast. She's speaking on thyroid. We've got really cool talks about like anti-aging, fasting, autophagy. We've got keto gains coming out. I know they're your buddies too. So we've got a pretty stacked lineup, and a lot of, I'm keto, so I'm kind of biased in that, and I do get some good keto speakers. So
that is so cool. I love it. Elle Russ is anyone who's interested in thyroid, I point them in her direction. She's a genius.
Yep.
And you have, so just to summarize, we have anybody who's trying to start a fitness business, for example, and I'm always encouraging people to go for it. I think this is a great way for people to learn about it. Anyone who wants to interact with the vendors and see what the newest trends are, and in general, anybody who wants to compete and all this other stuff. So it's definitely a great event. I want to encourage everybody to go to this. What is the website, and how can people learn more about it?
Yeah, good question. So it's just fitconsummit.com, just FITCONSUMMIT.com. It'll give you all the information on speakers, the schedule. It also gives you a pass to FitCon, to the expo. So just understand they are different tickets if you want to come to the seminar, but you get included the expo. So you can, when you're out of the seminars, you can go and check out all the competitions or during lunch. So fitconsummit.com is where you check us out. And then on Instagram, we're FitCon Summit as well, just at FitCon Summit.
Very cool. There you have it, guys. Sorry to interrupt. Back to the show.
If you can't even get through university without your parents going, that's not the kind of kids I want.
I want to raise kids that I don't have to worry about. I don't want to be constantly worrying about them because they can't live without me. Yeah, the whole point is to make them independent. Yeah,
and I think part of it is we're very aware of this. This is a good segue to the next question, because we live again in the most convenient life you've ever seen in history. I mean, it's just kids have it so easy, and we have access to everything we could ever want with Amazon Prime. One click, it's here, and sometimes at the same day you can have what you want. Yes. And I think we're very conscious of this problem. And obviously the kids can't help what time period they grew up in. But I think as parents, we need to think about these things. And sometimes we just feel like we're not doing a good enough job of preparing them for adulthood emotionally, because something doesn't go their way and they go crazy. And I'm just like, man, you're not going to make it when something real happens, and I wonder to myself, how can I make this child more resilient? And then I wonder about your kids, and the way, they helped out on the farm growing up, and how crucial that part was to developing resiliency and emotional intelligence. I mean, what do you think about that? How did that, I guess did you have an idea of how important that would be? Or was it something that you just, as time went on, you were just like, wow, these kids, they can do anything.
Honestly, I think it's just my husband and I, it's just the way we approach raising them, because our 2 older kids were all they weren't raised on a farm, right? We were moving around from base to base. So I think our oldest was already 10 or 11 when we got on the farm, maybe 12, 11 or 12, our oldest. And so, so I think, that's part of it. And I think it's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier when you live on a farm, because they're so connected to immediate consequences. And I think that's really hard to find.
Or simulate, right?
Right.
It is hard to simulate. For an example, it's minus 40 here today. Wow. So my daughter's school is shut down because it's too cold, not because it's snowing, but it's too cold to heat the school. So she was home this morning, and I woke her up early and I said, you're going to have to go out and do chores. And she was like, well, why am I doing chores? If I was going to school, you'd be doing chores. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm not. And you are. So
and that's that.
Enjoy.
Have to be done. And we're a team, and we live here.
Yeah, exactly. And that was the end of it, because if that conversation was a few years ago, when she was younger, that was at that time, it was like, doing chores with her and saying like, here's the water trough. It's -40 and it's frozen ice. So that means we have to plug in a heater because it's important that the animals have warm water. Can you imagine being this cold and not having? So there's just all these little lessons. And then, if she forgot to plug in the water heater, she'd get brought outside and said, so the cows haven't drank in all day. It's -40 and there's a block of ice here for them. Like, this is the real world consequence. And children usually love animals. Nobody
wants to make an animal suffer. Yeah,
exactly. And so, and then, as well as sort of, I think, being here puts children it puts everybody, actually. It gives you a clear picture of how you fit into the circle of life. And like, how beautiful is that, that we belong as part of this circle of life, that this land is going to feed these animals and we're going to eat these animals and then we're going to feed the land and the land is going to feed the animal and around it goes. And it's absolutely beautiful because it plugs all those holes where we're saying like, this just doesn't feel quite right. Like there's something missing here. And I think that missing bit is our true animalness. It's how we fit into everything and how can we really care and how can we really work our butts off for something if we don't even understand that we're part of it.
Yes.
So for me, that was the best gift that we were able to give the kids, and to put them into a place where they were able to see that like firsthand. So, that animal that they cared for. I was just looking at a picture the other day that a few years ago we had goats and one of the goats was my daughter specifically. And she raised it from, being a baby and took good care of it. And then the goat badly broke its leg, like a compound fracture through the skin. Oh, wow. So it had to be put down. And she carried the goat out to the field and sat down on the field and put the goat beside her and was feeding the goat clover that she had picked, this big mound of clover, and just cried. She sat there with her goat for about an hour and cried, and she was whispering to the goat. And then she came in the house and she said, "Daddy, you can shoot the goat now." And it was heartbreaking. But that lesson that taught her, and she understood that once that goat was shot, that now the goat was meat. And we were going to eat the goat because you have to do that because that's honoring that animal. And I mean, she was 10 at the time. Like I wish I could teach that to adults,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
My goodness.
Exactly.
My goodness. Yeah. Wow. That's just baked into your whole lifestyle. It just becomes, for a child to be able to face that at 10 years old is so powerful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's building resilience.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so let's move to the nutrition part because this is another area where I just love your page, because
so good.
You followed a low carb and a ketogenic diet even, for quite some time. But like you said, it's not until recent years when you switched to a mainly animal-based diet that you really experienced the best benefits. So what were the differences between the two approaches and what were the differences in how you felt and, with your Lyme disease, how did that, because we haven't even talked about that. That's just like, hey, let's throw that in, by the way. Yeah. So yeah, tell us kind of the evolution of your diet.
Yeah, well, when the kids were little, we were sort of doing a Weston A. Price style diet.
I love it.
Yeah, and then I was still having problems, so I was doing GAPS for a while, and then it was like paleo, but always stuck pretty close to the principles of Weston A. Price, and they've done so much good in the world that I always want to give them a little shout out when I can.
Oh, we love them. We agree.
Yeah, we love them too.
So much of the stuff that everyone talks about now originally comes from that foundation. So I just have deep respect for them. So when the kids were still pretty young, though, I removed grains. We used to soak and ferment grains, but then I removed the grains, and everybody seemed to do better with that. but yeah, like you said, it was always sort of an evolution. Well, that made me feel a bit better, but there's something still wrong. So let's try this and let's move on to this. And then it was we had done low carb forever, high, I say high fat, but I really want to say adequate fat because I just think we don't eat enough fat in our society. But anyway, and then I did the ketogenic, but things were still not that great. I was still having quite a bit of pain and inflammation. And it was only when I thought, well, it could not possibly be the vegetables or oh, wait, before I removed the vegetables, it was sweeteners. Mauda, I just love when you talk about sweeteners. I'm like,
oh man, yeah. I fell for it. I fell for it for a while because of the ketogenic community. And it's funny because we were paleo and Weston A. Price before going keto. And there was always something that felt wrong about it. Cause I'm like, I had already learned all that. And I'm like, this isn't real food. This isn't real food. This isn't real food. This can't be good. And then of course you're seeing these horrible side effects. Like my kids are just like, they're having, uncontrollable bowel movements. Everyone's like having horrible gas. I'm like, this isn't good.
No. And it just perpetrates like the sugar cravings. Horrible.
Exactly.
It's like a special type of torture. Like, don't just drink light beer if you're an alcoholic because that'll help you out.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I had, and same as you, like I would never have touched that stuff, but I really did fall for it. Like people were all saying, oh yeah, it's not fake sugar. It's an alcohol and it's fermented and it's fantastic. And
it's not an artificial sweet. It's not artificial.
Exactly. So I had gotten rid of all the sweeteners and felt way better, but still, and I was eating like under 20 grams of vegetables and non-starchy type vegetables, but it was when I removed that and that doesn't mean that I think everyone should remove vegetables at all. Like my daughters eat, my oldest daughter eats a carnivorous diet, but my other daughters eat a little bit of non-starchy vegetables. But for me, I think because of the Lyme disease, and that had been multi-years, I think there's a lot of damage done to my gut and to my mitochondria and my energy production and all sorts of things going on in my body. And so it was when I removed that last bit of vegetable and then started fasting as well every now and then, that I was just like, whoa, I actually woke up one morning and went to roll over and there was no pain in my body. And I just started bawling my head off because that was 8 years of waking up every morning and being like, okay, what's gonna hurt
today?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was really exciting for me and it's still working. And so I'm sticking on this train until something else, until until for whatever reason, but I feel fantastic right now.
I love it. Yeah. I feel the same way. I definitely think that I feel like everyone should try the carnivore diet, just even if they're not going to stick with it, because I just feel like it makes you more in tune with your body. And then you can go experimenting to see what feels good. But yeah, if there's something like Lyme disease, anything autoimmune, I mean, you can't deny these incredible results that these people are getting.
Yeah.
Sure. But let's talk about, and I've read a little bit about it, so I know the answer, but for our audience, how did you, because we live in a culture, and this is like a huge reason why we're even doing this, is like we want to like create, like we want to boycott kids menus. And why are we like, we live where, and I try to like show this and like bring this to the attention of friends and stuff. Like, what is your child a different species than you? Why are you making a different meal or a special dumbed down meal? Because that's all it is. It's like dumbed down flavors or crazy flavors, like super exaggerated flavors, and feeding your child something different, than what you're eating for dinner. I certainly didn't grow up like that.
No, I
which
didn't
is
either.
Funny.
We just ate smaller portions.
Yeah, it was like a smaller portion of what my mom was eating. Mm-hmm. So how did you approach that with your kids? How did you approach the nutrition aspect with them, and what did they eat growing up?
They ate what we ate always, and never had children's food. Exactly. That drives me nuts. But, they ate what we ate. They always ate what we ate. I was the weird mom that always packed coolers with real food in them. I had to put on a bit of armor because there were, moms that thought I was nuts, and I just had to stand firm in my conviction and be like, okay, think I'm nuts. Don't like me. That's okay. It's more important. It was always more important for me that we stuck with our convictions than that other people accepted me as a normal person. I'm okay with not being normal. It's fine because I understood. And I think the biggest thing for us too was always educating our kids. I wasn't going to be saying, no, we're not going to East Side Mario's and eating, pasta with all your friends. Because I don't like it, or no, right from when at age appropriate times, I would explain to them, well, what's the difference between that cheese and that cheese? Well, here's the difference, and I would not only tell them I'd make it so that they could understand it, but also talk to them about fats. But we also at that time we bought all of our animal products from farmers, and I would always bring my kids out to the farmers with me, and I would say, this look what this person's doing, and they would ask the farmer questions, and they would be like, these cows need to be out here on grass, and you see how far they can run, and do you know what, the meat in the grocery store, this is how that meat's raised, and it's empowering to them, because you really, by the time they're 5 or 6 years old, your work's done for that part, that's just become part of how they see things and what they are a part of as their tribe, which is their family. And that's how we do things in this family. And, when they got older, when they were teenagers, all of our kids were competitive athletes in high school. And so we would often go, our oldest daughter was a competitive rower. And so we would go to regattas on the weekend, and we would pack coolers of her food, and everyone else would be drinking Gatorade and, Mars bars or whatever for their energy, and dragging their asses around an hour. Yeah,
you need that energy. Got to get that energy. Yeah, love it.
They have to eat every hour because they're
great marketing.
Yeah. So, but it was there was wins and losses and that type of thing. But, I remember that year, actually, specifically, her coach noticed that Tyra had level energy throughout the day. Sometimes they'd row 5 or 6 times in these races. And she actually got me to come in and talk to the other girls and give them a little nutrition class. And then, the girls started bringing more protein and nuts. Some of them stuck with their Gatorade for sure. But the ones that did really notice the difference. So sometimes, it's those little things. And the other thing about raising kids that I hear a lot from people is that, if you raise your kids like that, you're going to make them have orthorexia, and they're going to have all these problems growing up, and they're going to be so freaked out about food and develop these disordered ways of eating. And I think that's just bullshit. It does not happen. It doesn't. Here's what happens is the kid grows up, they become a teenager, they go out with their friends, and their friends are ordering pizza, and they decide to have a piece, and then they puke their guts out because they're nauseous.
Exactly.
Yes.
And the next weekend they go out and have Dairy Queen, and they puke their guts out because it makes them nauseous. And the thing is, they grow up knowing what it feels like to have a clear mind, a well-functioning body, to have energy, to feel good in their bodies. And I really think that most kids don't even get that foundation anymore. They just don't even know what it feels like.
They don't know what it feels like. Yeah.
Think about it this way. It's and of course, when you know better, you do better. So when I talk to people, we had this couple that we had a giveaway, and what they won was, a consultation with me, and that was part of it. And so I said, we started talking about feeding the baby, and, it doesn't matter what formula you find. It doesn't matter if it's organic. It's always going to be corn syrup solids and soy. Mm-hmm. And what a disaster. So it starts with that. grains and, GMO grains and a bunch of like high fructose corn syrup. And then they go straight into cereal and they take their food, they mash it up and they make it into this like mush. And so the child's not even,
now they have a texture version.
Yeah. And so they are completely, it's so sad to see. And that's not what we did with our kids. And like you said, not only are they, they're kind of more adventurous to try different things because they've tried a much bigger variety of things, but they're also so sensitive to when they do eat bad things. Like,
we've had a few of those experiences.
Oh yeah. Well,
we let them, those are mistakes that we let them have. We go to a kid's birthday party, go for it. Des is much more cautious because he did go to a birthday party once where he had like cotton candy and like some sugary drink within like 10 minutes of getting there. I'm like, dude, you should slow down. And then he was crying, doubled over with the worst stomach ache. But it's a learning, it's a learning experience. And I'm not going to deny him of that learning experience. For sure. And I'm happy. And I'm so happy. And that's why I do this. Like, I'm happy that he's sensitive like that to food. Because that's another thing that I've actually heard, which is ridiculous to me. Like, but then they can't eat anything. They get sick. I'm like, yeah, but I don't want to like always feel kind of crappy. Yeah, I don't want to be normal. And here's the thing, like most people go around feeling kind of crappy and they think it's normal. They just think it's normal. And so they've never...
I'm getting older or whatever.
They blame it on age or whatever it is, but they don't know what it feels like to feel great. I'd rather feel great all the time. And then when I do mess up, I know I'm going to pay for it. Like...
Such an awesome conversation with you. We spoke about a few things and I feel like we could have spoken for an hour more. But I wanted to just leave you the floor just to leave our audience with whatever pearls you wanted to, and of course where they can find you.
Okay, no pressure. First, I just want to say really quick that I just love what you guys are up to. You're just, you and your family, just these wonderful beaming balls of sunshine and health. And
go on. Okay.
Oh, great. Yeah, Danny loves it.
I'll take up the last few minutes telling you how wonderful you are. No, really, it's inspiring. And I love people that think for themselves and outside the box and do things the right way, even if it's the hard way. So kudos to you guys. And just for everybody else, I would say be willing to question things. Reconnect yourself to the land and the farmers, even if you yourself don't live on a farm. There are plenty of people that do, and there's a big picture for you to fall into and find your real place. And it's cool to be different. It's okay. And society isn't bringing us anywhere good anyway, so we need to make our own direction and our own paths. And I hope that my little tiny piece of the social media pie just maybe inspires people to stick to their guns, and the wisdom that we need is already here. It's just sort of covered up with this facade, and we just need to excavate that a little bit. And to do that, we just need to look back and reclaim what's inherently ours as animals on this big, beautiful planet of ours. And the only place I am is on Instagram, and that's under slowdownfarmstead. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. And we can't wait for your book.
Yes, that's going to be so amazing.
Yeah, so
It'll
necessary.
Be a few years yet, but
I'm sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll be following with rapt attention.
Oh, yes. Thanks so much, you guys. All the best to you.
Likewise. Thank you so much. And stay warm up there.
Oh, yes, stay warm. When she said -40, I almost died.
Yeah. We're almost dying. Trust me.
Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Take care.
Take care. Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.